I don't see anybody else trying to hop on. So I am going to go for it. And hopefully if anybody else joins, they'll get caught up to speed. So thank you all so much for being here this evening for the AHEC Scholars Orientation. If you're able to turn your camera on, we do love to see your faces, but also understand if you're making dinner or anything like that, don't feel obligated to do so. I'm just happy that you're here for the AHEC Scholars Orientation. So for those that I haven't met yet, my name is Mandy Hedstrom, and I oversee the AHEC Scholars Program here across the state of Montana. And then I also serve as the program advisor for our Carroll College students, anyone at MSU that is not in the nursing program. I don't think we have any of our nursing program students on here, and then any other academic institution outside of the ones that Jillian will share here in just a second. So happy that you're all here. And Jillian, if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being with us tonight. My name is Jillian Hull, and I am the Western Montana AHEC Scholars Program Manager. So my office is over at Missoula College. And if you are at UM or at Missoula College or at SKC, then I am your advisor. Anything else, Mandy?
No, I think you got it. Thanks,
Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah. Awesome. And so we'll kind of dive in here. I don't expect this to take the full hour, but I do want this to be kind of an interactive orientation. So at any point, if you have questions, if something doesn't make sense, pop it in the chat, come off mute. I'm happy to answer anything that you all have. So I'm going to start really quick, just in case you guys haven't heard a presentation from us of what in the world is AHEC before we even dive into what AHEC Scholars is. So I really think it lays the foundation for what AHEC Scholars is. So AHEC stands for Area Health Education Center. And AHECs were developed by Congress in 1971 to really recruit, train, and retain health professions workforce that's committed to serving a rural and underserved population. And you can see that really bleeds through into what our mission here is at the Montana AHEC as well, which is to enhance access to quality health care in those rural and underserved communities across the state of Montana. And I put all three of these logos up here because you will see all of them affiliated with us, and I just want to make sure it's not overly confusing. So this top one here is the National AHEC logo that you'll see used nationwide. This one here is the Montana AHEC specific logo, and then you'll often see this one as well. So the office that I work for is actually the combined Office of Rural Health and Area Health Education Center. And we do need to be affiliated with either a medical school or a College of Nursing. So we do affiliate with the College of Nursing at Montana State University. So that's why you'll see that logo as well. But we are committed to serving the entire state of Montana. So that's why this program is open to students from any academic institution all across the state of Montana. I don't want anybody on here to be scared away by the MSU logo. We love our Grizzlies too. And then you'll also see that we have regional offices across the state, which is where Jillian is located there in Missoula at our Western AHEC office.
Go Grizz.
Yeah, we're very even here. We got Bobcats and Grizzlies on. And then also we have our offices in Helena that kind of split the middle part of the state between the North and South Central region, Eastern region in Billings, and then our Northeastern region in Miles City. So really do, like I say, spread the whole state of Montana. And then when it comes to AHEC Scholars, so AHEC Scholars is a national certificate program. So you're not only joining the Montana AHEC Scholars Program, you're really joining this larger cohort of students. And the purpose of the program really mirrors that of the mission of AHEC, which is to prepare and promote a diverse primary care workforce to serve our rural and underserved communities after graduation. So really we're here to provide you guys with an educational foundation to feel successful in being able to provide care in a rural or underserved community after graduation. That's really what we're all about. And then we always emphasize a team-based approach to healthcare. So I'll dive into who's in the program here momentarily, but we have students from over 20 different academic disciplines, and we think it's important that you guys get to interact and learn from each other so that when you graduate from this program and graduate from your academic programs, that you know how to kind of work together as a team, and we can kind of start to break down some of those silos that we all know exist in the current healthcare system that we have. So throughout the program, we'll really focus our education on these 8 core topic areas, which is a ton. They're pretty broad. And I'm not going to dive into them too much. I think hopefully most of them make sense to you all. But I did want you guys to know kind of where all of our education foundation comes from, and it's really from these 8 core topic areas. So first one, interprofessional education. So like I said, getting students from different programs working together. Second one there, integrated behavioral health. So how can we integrate behavioral health into the primary care setting, which I think particularly in a state like Montana, where the access to care is lacking, that this is a really important foundation for everyone to have, regardless of what profession they choose to go into. The third one, connecting communities and supporting health professionals. I think it's not as obvious as it sounds, but this one is how can we work with folks like community health workers and caseworkers to help our patients get the resources that they need outside of the traditional healthcare system. So that's just kind of working together to provide those additional resources for health that we all know happens outside of the hospital setting. Fourth one, virtual learning and telehealth. That's not going to surprise anyone in the current system, kind of post-COVID that we live in. And then the bottom one there, cultural competency. We really do try to take a pretty large focus on working with the indigenous populations here in Montana. So you'll see that being a pretty big focus for our cultural competency topics, just because that's really important here in the state. And then the last 3, social determinants of health. Hopefully that's all familiar to you all. Current emerging health issues is really anything that's kind of like new and up and coming. For a long time, it's COVID-19 heavy, but we really see that transitioning into things like maternal health, aging populations, that sort of thing. And then the last one, practice transformation, is really just preparing our students to kind of be prepared to enter a workforce that's kind of ever changing. And that is something we've been seeing over the last few years for sure. So that's where we focus our education, which is a lot, I know, but I promise we'll break it down for you all kind of throughout the program. So as promised, here is who's currently enrolled in the Montana AHEC Scholars Program. I think just as of this morning, we are a little bit bigger than this, but I didn't have time to update my slides, but I think we're about 340 students across the state of Montana. We are proud to say that we're one of the largest AHEC Scholars programs in the country as well, which for a state that has the population of Montana is something that's pretty cool. So, and you can see that we're represented across 10 different academic institutions, some of which you will see are outside of the state of Montana, but that is because those students grew up in Montana and do plan to return to Montana to practice. And then on the right-hand side there, you can see all of the different academic disciplines that we currently work with as well. So we do try to keep that interprofessional focus, but we are pretty nursing heavy, as you can see right here. Okay, so before I dive into what our program requirements are and really kind of give you guys a full rundown of that, I want to make sure you all understand why you're here. Why is this important? And so I always like to talk about it kind of in 4 pillars. The first one is that national recognition. So like I said at the beginning, this is a national certificate program. So when you complete our requirements and you graduate, you're going to be joining this larger cohort of AHEC scholars from across the country. And the National AHEC organization is always working on perks for alumni students. So you'll be able to continue to have a newsletter after graduation that's got continuing education opportunities and that sort of thing to keep you connected with the larger AHEC even post-graduation. For those of you that like graduation cords, you will get a unique set of graduation cords to wear at graduation as well. The second one there, which I think is the most important one, is that networking and community, just giving you all a chance to interact with students that you normally wouldn't get to. You know, in a state like Montana, all of our programs are pretty geographically distant from one another. So this program really gives students who are in WWAMI or in the nursing program an opportunity to interact with the pharmacy students, the PT students, the athletic training students that they might not get to otherwise. We put together monthly seminars throughout the year for our students. We always bring in a presenter to focus on one of the core topic areas, and then we try to do interprofessional breakout rooms to kind of go through some discussion questions and give you all an opportunity to connect with each other from kind of all corners of the state. The third one there, educational resources, which I'll fully dive into here momentarily, but we have a ton of educational resources for you all, and a lot of opportunities to attend conferences and different trainings and webinars. We're going to keep you up to date with all of that's going on. So just an opportunity to know about additional trainings and educational resources that you probably wouldn't know about if you weren't participating in this program. And then lastly, just an opportunity to develop new skills and strategies for improving your delivery of healthcare. So kind of what I said at the beginning, we really focus on trying to break down those silos that exist in the current healthcare setting and give you all an opportunity to learn to work effectively in that team-based setting prior to going out and practicing in whatever area that you choose to. So I wanted to make sure you all knew why you were here before I told you what you needed to do to participate. So each year that you're in the program, and everybody's years are a little bit different, but if you have 2 years left in your academic program or more, then we're going to ask you to complete 2 years worth of requirements. If you're in a 15-month or less program, then you only need to complete 1 year's worth of requirements. If you're confused on which one you are, please reach out to myself or Jillian, and we'll certainly get you squared away for that. But for each year that you're in the program, we ask for 40 clinical hours and 40 educational hours. So I'm going to kind of dive in here and give you a little bit of overview on what that looks like. So let's first start with the clinical side, because I think this one's the most straightforward. So what we need for clinical hours, and they actually call them interprofessional, community-based, experiential learning hours, which is kind of a mouthful, but really, most of your clinical rotations that you're completing for your current academic program, if that's a requirement, can count as these AHEC Scholars clinical hours as well. So as long as you're doing some of them, either interdisciplinary or in a rural or medically underserved community, those hours can count towards this. So I know there's some social work, some DNP students on here. Most of what you're doing already will count for this. The entire state of, just kind of fun fact, by the federal government standards, the entire state of Montana is considered medically underserved. So those hours, as long as you're doing them in Montana, typically we can get to count for this requirement here. If you're a part of a program that doesn't have built-in clinical hours, that's okay. Really anything that you're doing hands-on experiential learning can count. So health fairs, internships, job shadowing, any sort of volunteering that you might be doing, all of those things can count for your hours. So if you don't have a clinical component built into your program, I would encourage you to reach out to your advisor, and I'll show contact information at the end. And we can kind of chat about how you want to make sure those 40 hours are covered, but we can certainly walk you through some options for that. And then on the educational hour side, we try to make this program really as flexible as it can be for you all. We try to let you tailor this experience to what you want it to be, so that you're getting that whatever you want out of this program is what you're getting out of it. So most of our students who participate will choose to do the self-paced educational hours option. And we have so many different things for you all in order to get those hours. So there is the online platform, which is Canvas. You should have all received an invitation to that. And I'm going to give you a tour momentarily, so I can kind of show you how to walk through that platform. But we have over 250 hours worth of content on that platform alone. Well, also on the platform, you'll see our AHEC Scholars calendar, which averages about 80 hours of trainings, webinars, all of that sort of stuff per month. So there's a lot of opportunity on there too. And really anything that you're doing outside of your regular academic program, like if there's something going on in your area and you're like, I'm really interested in that training, or I'm really interested in this speaker, more often than not, we can have those things count for your AHEC Scholars hours as well, as long as they're not required by your academic program. Hopefully at this point, you all have received a weekly newsletter from us. We send them out every Monday. Just kind of giving you a breakdown of the different opportunities that are up and coming either in that next week or so. So we do try to break it down into bite-sized chunks in case all of this other information is a little bit too overwhelming for you. And then we also have a podcast playlist, which is available on the platform. I'll show you how to get there. But this is something that our students were asking for, was in kind of an easier way to get these hours on the go. So if you're doing a lot of traveling across the state for your clinical rotations, you can put on this podcast playlist, keep track of which different podcasts you're listening to, and submit those for hours as well. I'd say this is a pretty popular option amongst our students. You can take your dog for a walk and get educational hours at the same time. So like I said, we do try to build in some of that flexibility for you all. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we do monthly seminars as well. So we will have those counts towards your hours requirement. And then the other option is there are some academic courses that you can enroll in that will automatically count for your 40 hours. The caveat being they have to be approved and they have to be taken as an elective course. So it cannot be required by your academic program, but if it's something additional that you're enrolling in, there is some ways to get a big chunk of those hours really in that one setting. And I will show you how to find out which courses are already covered. But if you find something else, you're like, yeah, this seems like it's covering most of those core topic areas that Mandy mentioned. We're always looking for new courses to kind of grow that listing, especially if you're not enrolled at MSU or UM, because we do not have any courses for you at this current moment, and we would love to. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the Scholars Hub and the online platform, and then I'll kind of walk you through last things like deadlines and that sort of thing. So the first thing I wanted to show you is the AHEC Scholars Hub, in case you haven't seen this yet. I'm also going to put a link in the chat. I highly recommend that you bookmark it if you haven't already, because this is really going to serve as your resource throughout the program. It kind of breaks down what the program is, what the requirements are, when events are happening. If you ever lose the link to Canvas, if you just click on online platform, it's going to take you right to the correct link for Canvas. You can't just Google Canvas. Unfortunately, it takes you to the wrong login page. So if you lose it, make sure you're using that one. And then here's a list, like I mentioned, of those academic courses that have already been pre-approved for 40 educational hours. So you can see that list here, list of tutorial videos, link to the calendar. So there's so much information just right here on this Scholars Hub. I also want to point out right here would be the contact information and the breakdown of all of the program advisors and how to get a hold of us. So in case you lose that as well, but we send that every week in the newsletter. So hopefully you don't, you don't lose it, because it's in there every single week. Okay, on to the platform. So when you log into the Canvas platform, it should look something a little bit like this. You should have two courses. You should have your educational hours and your clinical hours. And most of the time that you spend in here is going to be in this educational hours section. So you just click on this. Hopefully your computer's not being as slow as mine. I actually lost internet recently for like 6 days and it just came back. So things I'm thriving over here. I was like, please do not let this go out. So anyways, this is what it should look like when you click on the educational hours. Again, here's the contact information for your advisors. We do put it everywhere just in case you lose us. And on here, we break down the educational content by core topic area. So if you're really interested in your behavioral health integration, you can click on this button here and it will take you to all of the courses that we have that are relevant to that core topic area. And it's pretty simple if you want to take something in here. So say you're interested in this overview of trauma-informed care and historical trauma-informed care. You can just click on this module here. It will take you to, a little bit more information about it. You'll access the activity. And this one looks like it's a YouTube video. So you would take your, I'll try to not let it speak over me. You would take your 2-hour training. You would come back to the platform. You hit next, because the only way to make sure that you receive credit for having done this activity is to take this survey. And the second that you fill all of this out, so say you liked it, there's optional comments here if you feel like you want to put anything there, you certainly can. And then once you submit it, it will automatically calculate that into your grade book for you. So you can see that we received 2 points or 2 hours for that activity. So that's kind of how that works. Just make sure that you're always taking the evaluation in order to receive credit for it. Okay, gonna head back to the main homepage here of the educational hours section. And then here's that calendar of events that I referenced. So we subscribe to a lot of different newsletters to try to bring you all of the educational opportunities that we can. The default calendar setting, I think, can be a little bit harder to read, but if you click on agenda up in the right-hand corner, now all of a sudden you can see the full title for that event, and I think that's a little bit easier. But all you have to do is click on it. This gives you a little bit more information, register for it, and then you can see how many hours it's approved for. And so you can kind of
writer on
there it goes. I knew that was gonna happen. I was like, what is talking at me? I thought it was somebody else on. So sorry about that. So this just shows you how many hours it's worth. And then I'll show you how to submit those hours for, or submit that activity for hours as well, because that is right down here, this button. So anything on the calendar that you do, you can submit here. Any of the podcasts that you listen to, you can submit here. And then again, if you attend something outside of those two things that you think should count for hours, you can just go ahead and submit it here, give us a little bit of information about what you attended and how many hours it was worth, and we'll take a look at it to see if you should get some credit for it. So I just want to show you what this looks like as well. There's a ton of different ones that you can submit, but always start with the first one if you can. This is a fake student profile, so we do have to go to the fifth one because these ones have already been filled out, and it is a quiz, but it's not really a quiz. It's just the easiest way to get this information from you all. So you can see here, you can provide some information about what you attended, just in case there's a certificate, agenda, or anything, you can upload it here, not a requirement. Say it was worth 2 hours, and then you submit this quiz. Now this one won't automatically give you hours. So it's going to give you a score of 0 until myself or Jillian or Emma review it and give you the hours that it's worth. Now, if you submit something for 2 hours, you will receive a score of 2 out of 40. That does not mean you failed the assignment. It just means that it was worth 2 hours. So that is a question that we get quite a bit, but we're not looking at percentages in this Canvas platform, just total hours. Okay, and then as promised, here's the podcast playlist as well. It's on Spotify. If you just click on it, it will open that Spotify profile for you. So anything on there, again, is approved for hours. And I think at this point, we have over 40 hours worth of podcasts on there. If you are an avid podcast listener and have suggestions for me, I always take that as well. And we'll always like to kind of buffer that or build up that podcast playlist for our students. So. And then here's a link to some tutorial videos too. So if you get in here, you're like, I cannot remember what Mandy said about how to submit my hours for activity. Good news, we've filmed some tutorial videos for you. So you can come in here, watch that, and then come back to the platform and submit those hours. The last thing I want to show you on the educational hour side is just how to figure out, okay, how many hours have I done this year? If you come into here and click on grades, this one always takes a second, so just gonna be patient while my internet catches up on the grade book. This will give you a breakdown of everything that you've completed thus far. So the most important place to look is over here on this total. So you can see, we're looking at this first number here, that this student completed 49.75 hours out of their 80-hour requirement. You can ignore this back half. It will change as you do more activities and submit things. So this doesn't have to be 80, or if it moves to 100, that doesn't mean all of a sudden you have to complete 100 hours. That would be impossible for you to reach that number. So we're just looking at this first number here to either be 40 or 80, depending on which year in the program that you are. And then you can see here a full rundown of everything that you have received hours for. So if you kind of forget which modules you've taken, those will show up in here for you as well. Okay, before I go to the clinical side, does anybody have any questions for me just on the educational side of the platform? So far, so good. Okay, awesome. If you ever get kind of lost and aren't sure like how to get back to the homepage, this dashboard button will take you back to this page here where you can access either the educational hours or the clinical hours. So we'll dive into the clinical hours side. And this is something that we'll ask you to fill out at the end of each semester. So we don't need it from you, each week or anything like that. Just kind of keep track of where you're going. And then we'll have you submit it all at the end, just because it's a little bit clunky. It's not the best system. Oh, I forgot that. Like I used Clinical Log 3. I did look at this earlier. Normally you would fill them out in order, but just want to make sure you guys can see what this looks like. So as you're kind of doing your clinical rotations throughout the semester, if you want to keep track on, like a spreadsheet or something like that, and then just come in here and submit them all at once. This is an old one. So, and there's nothing wrong with this one. It's just because it's been opened before. So you would come in here and you would complete this clinical log. It looks a little bit different now, but it's same concept. So first name, last name, academic program. These will be the right ones. And then you just tell us the name of the clinical site, where it was located, and how many hours that you did. My ask would be that if you have done rotations at multiple locations, that you don't put like Billings Clinic, Bozeman Health, etc., all in the same one. It does make deciphering that data a little bit harder on our end. So please do just put one in at a time. And then if you did complete clinical hours at another location, say yes, hit submit, and then it'll kind of reformulate. Like you can see, I'll hit submit here. It'll come back up with clinical site name 2, same sort of thing. Then you can say no if you didn't go anywhere else. You click submit. That means that your survey has been recorded, but then there is still a part 2 of, yep, I completed the top survey and my total hours was 100. And then you go ahead and submit that quiz. So it is a little bit clunkier, but we basically have a Qualtrics survey embedded into these clinical logs, which makes it easier for us when we are going to report out on things. So we do ask that you do tell us everywhere that you go if you can remember it. It does matter for our reporting purposes. We really don't only need 40 hours from you, but the more that we have in there, the more that HRSA likes that. So if you can give us a pretty good idea of where you've gone. Now, we don't need it down to like, if you're not sure if it was 40 hours or 45 hours, that doesn't matter too much to us. We don't have to like nitpick all of the hour piece of it. Just give us your best guess of how many hours you were at each clinical location. So I have a question in the chat about how often to report clinical hours. We ask once a semester, and your advisor will send out a reminder for you at the end of each semester saying, hey, it's time to fill out your clinical log, give you a link to it, and we try to make it as simple as possible for you all. So yeah, good question. And then same thing here, if you're curious on how many hours you've already submitted for, there will be this grade book here and you can get your total hours up there. So that's kind of what that looks like. So any questions in the online platform here before I finish up my presentation? Okay, well, let me go back to my PowerPoint. 40 hours for the academic year. Yes, that's correct, Courtney. Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of just round this out with some expectations and just some due dates and kind of all of those things so that you guys leave here feeling like you know what's being expected of you in this program. So we do ask that if you can participate in monthly seminars, we would really love for you to be there. If you're doing clinicals or your schedule just doesn't allow for that, we totally understand. But we do ask that you try to make it if you can. We're always looking for continuous progress towards completing your hours. It is so much easier to do an hour or 2 a week than it is to try to do 40 of them in a couple of weeks while you're also studying for final. So I always encourage students to get in there and start working on those things as soon as possible. We do ask that you stay in the program for your required time length. It does matter to us if students leave the program. We would love to keep you around. So stay in the program if you can, and then meet our due dates, which I'm going to walk through you guys with in just a second. But know that this program is flexible and it's designed to be. So at any point in time, if you can't make a deadline, if you're confused about a requirement, that's where we have program advisors, and we ask that you reach out to them. I've always been able to grant extensions for things. If you're like, I just am not going to make that 40 hours by August 31st. Can I have a few extra weeks? More often than not, we can meet those things for you all. So just we ask that you communicate early and often. If you're confused, schedule an appointment. It usually takes 5 minutes to kind of hash things out and make sure that you're squared away with the program. So know that we're here to support you, and we want to make sure that this program is able to fit into your workload as well. And then we do ask for yearly evaluations and surveys. So we ask that you complete those. We will also be tracking you down 1 year post-graduation for an evaluation as well. That is a requirement by our funder. So if you see me reaching out a year after graduation, please also take that one because our funding depends on all of those evaluations and surveys. So here's a due date. So if you're on the 2-year track, we ask that you have all of your educational, clinical, and your year 1 evaluation done by August 31st of 2024. So you can go past that spring semester. You can have the summer to complete those hours. And then we would ask that you have all 80 educational and clinical and your other evals completed a couple of weeks before you graduate in the spring. You are allowed to do hours over the summer, over breaks, anything like that. Whenever you want to work on those hours is totally fine. And we do, if people are like, can I go over 40 hours in my first year? You can. We really do look for a cumulative of 80 by the time that you're graduating. We do ask that you don't rush and get all 80 done in the first 3 months and then kind of ghost us for the rest of the program. We would like to see you participating for the full 2 years. But you are allowed to if you have more time in the summer, you are allowed to work ahead on those remaining 80 hours if you so choose. And then if you're 15 months or less and you're doing just the 40 and 40, same sort of thing. We ask that those are done a couple of weeks prior to your graduation. So I know that everybody's graduation dates are a little bit different. So that's why there's not a solid date here for you all. Some of you are graduating May, some are August. So we'll want those done about 2 weeks before graduation. So we have time to get you those boards, certificate and everything like that. So, and your program advisor will be in contact with you if there's an upcoming deadline, anything like that. We'll certainly keep you in the loop. So, can job count as clinical hours? It can, Conlin, depending on what that is. So are you at the University of Montana? I think you are, if I remember correctly. Yeah, okay, cool. So we can have you connecting with Jillian about what the job that is that you're doing, but more often than not, as long as it's again kind of interprofessional or serving a rural or underserved population, we can get those hours to count. So yeah. Good questions. Okay, so resources. I've said your advisor so many times, but here again is our contact information. Use that AHEC Scholars Hub. There's a lot of information in there, tutorial videos, all of that kind of stuff. And make sure you're utilizing the online platform. We have a lot of information in there for you as well. I cannot express enough though that at any point in time, if you have questions, we are here for you and we want to support you through this program. So at any point, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Jillian or Emma if you're in one of those programs as well. She wasn't able to make it tonight. So, but she is a part of the team as well. And then just to kind of wrap things up, kind of a list of, okay, what do I need to do next to kind of get started in this program? So if we just enrolled you in AHEC Scholars, make sure that you accept your invitation to Canvas, which is that online platform. Oftentimes those invitations go to spam, especially if you have a Gmail account. So check there if you haven't seen it. But if you cannot find your Canvas invitation anywhere, please reach out to us. We'll make sure you get a new one and that we can get you into that platform, because it really the basis of this program lives in that platform. Again, I encourage you to book the AHEC Scholars Hub webpage just so it's always there front and center, and that way you can't lose that link to Canvas either, because it's right there on the Scholars Hub. The next seminar that we have will be on October 19th from 5 to 6 p.m. It'll be virtual. We'll make sure to get calendar invites and all that stuff out to you very soon. And then start working on those educational hours. Like I said, we'd like to see that continuous progress towards those hours, and it'll be so much easier on you if you start working on those hours now. And then just double check that you're getting that weekly newsletter from us. We put a lot of good information in there, lots of good updates, and oftentimes that goes to junk as well. So mark it safe, make sure it's going to your regular inbox. So. And then here's the contact information again, if we didn't give it to you enough, for Jillian and I. And I'll pause for a second to see if there are any additional questions from anyone on the Zoom call. I do actually want to see your faces, so I'm going to stop sharing. Anybody have any questions? Well, we're happy that you're here. Please don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything we can help you with. Otherwise, Jillian and I will hang on for a couple extra minutes just in case you have any individualized questions. But if you don't, you're free to hop off. We will still give you a full educational hour for attending this evening, and we will log that hour for you. So if you haven't had any hours yet, this will be your first one. How exciting. But please let us know if there's anything that we can do to help you all. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a good evening.